Join us every Saturday, 2 p.m. as we learn to live well naturally with Dr. Kifa Lorraine Weatherspoon.
Flexibility. Flexibility is the ability to adapt and change amid the fluctuating circumstances of life. Flexibility. We go with the flow, seeing the choices, challenges, and opportunities in all that happens. Flexibility. We do not insist on our own way. We are open to the opinions and feelings of others. Flexibility. When the unexpected comes, we rise to the challenge with resilience and confidence. Flexibility. We're willing to change unproductive habits. We see imaginative new ways to do things. Flexibility. The winds of change may bend us, but they only make us stronger. When we are willing to grow, we enjoy spontaneity. Flexibility. We welcome surprises. I bend, but I do not break. I adapt when change is called for. I trust the course of my life. I find creative ways to solve problems. I accept things I cannot change. I am a constant state of growth. I am in a constant state of growth. I am open to life's unexpected wonders. I am thankful for the gift of flexibility. It keeps my spirit supple. Bless you. Good afternoon, Detroit. I'm Dr. Kifa Lorraine Weatherspoon. We're live in studio here at News Talk AM 1200, 99.9 FM WCHB. This is Live Well Naturally with yours truly, Dr. Kifa. Our virtue this week is flexibility. Telling you, I've been called to exercise some serious flexibility in my life right about through here. There's an African proverb that says, even the strongest tree will break if it can't bend in the wind. So we find ourselves in these winds of change and this season of transformation here on the planet. You know, all week we've been talking about this serious problem that we have that is the underlying cause of a lot of conditions that people are having, and it's being over or misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed or not even considered. And so we want to talk about a little bit today. For those of you that are very much into the electronic world, we have to realize that there are certain kind of medical conditions that are related to all this excessive amount of electromagnetic factors that we're exposed to, whether it's the cell phone, the iPhone, the iPad, the laptop, the desktop, the television, the microwave oven, being bombarded with all this frequency. There's an email that we're passing around. If you'd like to get a copy of it, just email me at drkifa.com. Go to our website and email me, and I'll send you a copy of the email so that you can watch this video that we're going to be showing on Transformational Tuesday. But we really have to bring this back to the forefront and stress it again. You know, in a couple of my books, I wrote about the dangers of all this electromagnetic factor. You know, we have children as young as 8 years old on the computer. I have a 3-year-old grandson that is a Xbox master. He got his games, and he can break all the records on the game, and that's just a lot of exposure. You have folks that have the TV on 24/7. That's a lot. So one of the things that are pointed out in the documentary that we're more than glad to email to you. I have a friend that's in Tsukio Maikari. Her name is Judy Kosovich. She's in the Washington, D.C. Center, and she's very much part of the lobby group there in D.C. We're lobbying for a more evolved state of how we're dealing with the planet and food and all of that. So she keeps me abreast of the latest things that come through. And these important findings cannot be underrated, should not be underrated, and should be clearly understood that there is a heavy price that we're paying for all this electronic devices, this high-tech world we find ourselves in. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Some of the dangers and some of the things that we can do to circumvent some of the results from overexposure to all this electronic equipment, you know, all these EMFs, the electromagnetic factors that are bombarding the planet. You know, the whole resonance, that's resonance of the earth, which is supposed to be vibrating at the same frequency as our brain and our body. This whole frequency is throwing everything, all of nature, out of balance, and is wiping out huge populations of different species. And one of the most dangerous species that we're eliminating, or one of the species that we're in the greatest danger of eliminating, is the bees. 70% of the pollination that occurs on the planet with our food supply happens because of the bumblebee. And it's records from 70 to 95% of the bee population is becoming extinct on the planet. They say that if all the bees die off within a matter of a few years, humanity will be extinct. We have to understand what we're doing, and the bees are not dying off because there's no flowers. They're dying off because of this this energy frequency that's being created because of all of this radiation that we're putting in the atmosphere. And we're not talking about Chernobyl and the nuclear plant that went off in Japan during the tsunami. We're talking about all these electronics and all these towers that are emitting all these signals and this radiation and the effect that it's having on nature. But more importantly, we need to understand the effect it's having on us. You know, one of the organs or glands that absorbs a lot of this radiation, whether it's in the food, the water, the air, you know, whether it's in the animal products that we're eating or whatever, is the thyroid. When the thyroid goes out of balance, it affects the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands and the kidneys regulate the blood pressure. So whenever somebody tells me they can't get their pressure under control, you know, and you find that men that are having ED, erectile dysfunction, or low libido or whatever, you know, I'm going to check the thyroid, and I'm going to ask you, where's your cell phone? We had a woman that came in the water station. She had a cell phone tucked in each one of her bra cups, tucked under each one of her breasts. She pulled out the one under the left breast, and then she went in and pulled out the one under the right breast. And I said, well, why you have two cell phones stuck down near your breast? She said, this one is for the children, and this is for my business. And I said, you can't have, that's not good for you to have those cell phones, you know, that close to your heart and tucked on your body like that. Do you know what kind of, you know, low frequency radiation is being emitted from those cell phones? So in this video that I'd love for you to be able to see, we're on radio so you can't see it, but in this video that I'd love for you to have or come out on Tuesday if you're interested in seeing it, there's an instrument where you can hear what's being emitted that is inaudible to your ear. And so if you could hear what's being emitted from these towers, even these phone towers, or that, you know, these, I don't even know how to describe it, but you see them up on the telephone poles in the back of your house. If you could hear what's being emitted from those, not to mention these towers that have been erected for these mobile phones and these iPhones, but if you could hear the sound that they're emitting, you would run from the area where they're at. And in the video, the person, it's been diagnosed with breast cancer. Let me get my thought here for a moment, because I'm trying to really communicate something with you today, and it's an urgency. And I took a time to email it to the top doc, one of the doctors down at DMC, because I think it's important finding that you see in people in the emergency room, you need to check and see if this may be a cause. Because while you're treating all these symptoms, we have to definitely address the cause. And the woman goes into the emergency room, and she gets diagnosed with these tumors, and finds out that she's got breast cancer. So when she goes back for treatment, she sees one of her neighbors in the room. And then she sees another neighbor. And so she gets curious, and she said, you know, we all live in the same complex, the same apartment complex, the same, you know, subdivision. Let me just do a survey and check and see how many people in that subdivision, see if it's something in the subdivision that's causing this. And when she checked, 77% of the people in the subdivision had cancer. Now, I don't know what you think about that, but I think that that's astounding, you know, and they all live near these towers. And so when we recognize that there has not been any clinical studies, no studies done on that, the accumulative and long-term effect of all of this electronic and microwave oven and all this stuff that we have, this modern technology that we have introduced into our lifestyle, we haven't done the research on the effect of it. But I want you all to know that we are experiencing cancers and death from cancers at a rate that would be classified as epidemic. There was a nurse, Vicky, God bless her, from Sinai Hospital. She works in ICU, intensive care unit. She was in the Sankofa center when I came into the office today. And the look on her face spoke 1,000 words of what was going on in her heart. Her face looked so troubled, and she had this look of hopelessness. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she may have gotten diagnosed with something really serious. I said, what's going on? Tahira said, tell Dr. Kiefer what you told me. Tell her what happened. She said she's working at Sinai Grace. She said typically she has to bag two to three people per month, people that die in intensive care. She said, Dr. Kiefer, they're dying every day. She said, I can't take it. I said, well, what age are they? What are they dying from? She said, they're all ages. She said, there's a 19-year-old that they cannot get his blood pressure under control. He's on dialysis and he may go any day. She said, Dr. Kiefer, I can't take it. I had to come in here and start taking care of myself because when I see people coming in here, now Brother Young said to us, around this time of year, the death rate increases. Yeah, well, it may double, but every day go from 3 people dying a month in intensive care, and that's just one hospital, to one dying every day from 3 to 30. It's like 1,000-fold. We're not concerned. We're not concerned that one of the primary investments right now in medicine is building hospice for children, a place for children under 20 to go die. Come on, America, we can do better than this. And so we need to pay attention to what we have created. And don't worry, I'm not going to just discuss the problem. I'm going to give you some viable solutions. I'm going to give you kind of things that we do for our livelihood at Sankofa and the water station so that you can understand the importance of taking care of yourself. And by the way, here's my commercial. We are the water station. We bottle and refill ionized alkaline water, located 18734 18734 Woodward Avenue. That's 18710. 18734 is the Healthy Soul in Sankofa, but 18710, just right next door, is the water station. That's in Detroit, between 6 and 7 Mile, or closer to 7 Mile, across from the Palmer Park Golf Course. We're open Tuesday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. We're open later now, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturdays 9 to 5. We're closed on Sundays and Mondays. So if you haven't tried the ionized alkaline water, you make sure you get you some. But anyway, the video is pretty scientific, but it's the kind of thing that if you're having any of these symptoms, it grabs your attention and it holds you there for a minute. Well, for longer than a minute, because you're going to be sitting there, you're going to look at the whole thing because you'll be compelled, because there's a part of you that can identify with some of the stuff I'm getting ready to tell you about. Because, when we understand that this body was designed to function at a certain frequency, and that harmonics and that frequency should be the same as the resonance coming from the earth, and that our brain is in direct reflection with the harmonics of the earth, and all this man-made energy that we're creating, this man-made electronics that we're creating, is disrupting this natural harmony, a resonance that the body should be vibrating at. If we understood what the effects of that is, then we'll start taking a look at our lifestyle and seeing how we can govern ourselves a little bit differently. So all of this electronic stuff, is creating all this radiation exposure at a cellular level, and is doing a lot of damage. If you never looked into the victims of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, why don't you take a moment and look at some of the health problems that developed when they were exposed to all that radiation. One of the scientists in the documentary that I'm speaking of said that the amount of electromagnetic radiation that we're putting in the environment today compared to 50 years ago is millions of times more radiation in the environment, in the atmosphere, than it was just 50 years ago. Millions of times. I had the opportunity back in the 90s to be invited to Focus Hope over on Oakland Boulevard, and they had just built the school, and I can't remember the father's name, but he built this school, the priest there. It'll come to me. But he built this training institution for training persons on how to be able to work on these computerized equipment that was going to be replacing man-made manpower in the plants. So I had a tour of the plant, and my body's so sensitive to this radiation that I'm like a Geiger counter. I mean, I get all kind of physical symptoms when I walk in. It's just even walking in the studio here with all this electronics, I can feel it. So before I came in, I took me some extra green vegetables, some extra chlorella, some seaweed, so that my body, my lymphatic system can be buffered, because my lymph nodes just swell up and I start getting this weird headache. And it's not a headache like most people get headaches. This headache from these electronics. If you work in front of a computer all the time, you're going to relate to this. Remember I told you I was diagnosed with cervical cancer back in the 70s. Well, I was a computer operator. And before I was a computer operator, I was data entry. And so back then, we sat at this desk, and the computer, even though the monitor was in front of us, the computer was underneath. So that means for all those months and years that I was working on that equipment, my bottom half of my body was being exposed to all that radiation. And then when I went into the computer programming and computer operation, we had a huge room, probably about larger than that, because my area that I worked in was about 9 to 1,200 square feet. So the whole area was just all these massive, talk about antiquated dinosaurs, all these massive computers and all this data being stored and processed and whatever. That when I walk in there, it's like my immune function just bottomed out. And all these, my body just went into these chills and all these flu symptoms. So I was always cold, which means that I was severely anemic. So if you're having problems with anemia, listen up to I'm telling you about this radiation, because you need to be able to connect some dots. Always had digestive problems. I lived on Tums and Rolaids. So if you understood what this stuff is doing to this radiation and all this stuff I'm talking about, these microwave ovens and cell phones and iPads, computers, iPhones, all this stuff, if you realize what it's doing that's upsetting your digestive tract, you wouldn't just be trying to treat the symptom. I'm going to give you some solutions, but one of the things is get that mobile phone off of your body. I know a lot of people have the speaker wrapped around their ears now, but that's not good enough because you have the mobile phone in your pocket. If you understood what that mobile phone, that transmission of that radiation is doing to your prostate, and black men in Michigan lead the world in prostate cancer. Black women in Michigan, we lead the world in breast cancer, and we're more likely to die from breast cancer than any other race. Somebody in the class said, well, what are they doing about it? It's not a they problem. What are we doing about it? So before you can do better, you have to know better. So I'm educating you today. This is not a new conversation for me because it's in my books. I've been writing about this for decades. But it's been just flying past everybody's head. But now that it's become an epidemic, now that it's becoming real serious, you all have to understand a lot of time is overlooked. That even if you ask your doctor, can this be the cause of it? You're going to have to educate your doctor. So you need to forward your doctor this email that I'm sending you, because this is UK scientists and doctors from the United Kingdom and in Europe that are talking about these findings and these studies, and the World Health Organization. So this is not hidden knowledge. This is common, but it's not common if you're not looking for it. You may not have been looking for it today, but if you tuned in, this is what we're going to talk about, because we need to address this, because you all are dealing with these symptoms. And even though you think you're dealing with what is the cause of the symptom, you may be overlooking what I'm discussing today. So as I toured this plant, and I could feel all of this electric charge, it's like, how sometimes you touch a piece of metal in the room and you get a little shock, a little jolt, or you run your hand across in front of the TV screen and you can feel all this stuff emitted. Well, you're thinking that it's localized right there. The television, no, it's not. The room is full of it. The room is full of it. I can feel it. And what it does is it almost dismembers your nervous system. Talk about anxiety and stress and bipolar and all that other stuff. If we had any idea the connection between a lot of this electronic garbage. And in one of my books, I tell you, don't put your baby's crib on the other side of a television or microwave oven or any of those appliances where it's emitting all this stuff, because it has been linked to all kind of brain problems, seizures, and even sudden infant death and crib death, because the child's brain cannot tolerate exposure to all that radiation. Interesting, when you go to get an x-ray, they have the technician wear a lead vest. Now you get an x-ray and they ain't putting no lead vest on you. Now, let me finish this conversation about this plant that I toured with all this modern super technique and technology and all of that. When I finished the tour, I said, can you show me the cafeteria? And they took me to the cafeteria, and there was this whole wall of vending machines. And I looked at the food stuff, not food, stuff that was in the vending machines. I said, you know what? You may want to replace what's in these vending machines with some green vegetables, some chlorophyll sources, some seaweeds. I said, because by the time your staff, by the time your students finish working with all those computers, if you do not give them some green vegetables to help neutralize that radiation, you're gonna have a lot of sick people on your hand and probably some deaths, because that place was so charged with this electronic energy that I couldn't stand in it. I just wanted to be out of it. Now you all can say, well, you're just sensitive to it. Well, you all need to do your homework so you can understand how many species on the planet are dying out. And then when the experiments were done, where you can see that when you put this particular kind of electronic vibration there, it's like if you have one of these power generators in the back of your home, you notice that there is no butterflies that come near your garden. I don't care how many flowers you have, you may get one or two. But after a while, they stop coming. There's no bees. We're not asking any questions, like, where are all the insects? I asked a question when we were growing up. We used to go to Belle Isle, And my brothers used to catch the frogs and the turtles in the Detroit River and chase me and my sister with them. You go out there now, there's no turtles and no frogs. So they told me one day about going to the beach. I said, I'm not going in the water until the turtles and the frogs come back. Because if the water is so unsafe that the turtles and the frogs have diminished or died off, why do I want to get in the water? I don't want to get in the water because there's something wrong with the water. Now, something wrong with the water doesn't mean we have to keep it. What we're going to do? No, it means it's time to clean up the water. We need to realize that this planet Earth is our mother, that it is pulsating, it is breathing, it is alive. This is a living entity, this Earth planet. If it was dead, we wouldn't be alive eating of her substance. We are blood of her blood, flesh of her flesh. In her, we live and move and breathe and have our being. And I'm not taking anything away from God, but I'm telling you that, man, we have created a monster here. We got to understand some of the side effects of that. So when you look at all this radiation accumulation, you're going to have all these tumors. Dr. Mona Harrison helped us understand years ago, if you have a mineral deficiency, an organ in your body may develop a cyst. If you don't correct the mineral deficiency, the cyst may become a tumor. If you don't correct the mineral deficiency, the tumor may become cancer. So look at radiation exposure when you talk about all these tumors that we're being exposed to. One of the doctors on the video, on the documentary that I'm speaking of today, he developed colon cancer. Now what he did is he volunteered to be a part of the study. And within the first month of being a part of the study, he started having rectal bleeding. And by the 7th year being a part of this whole process, he had colon cancer. And what happens is that as long as he minimizes the amount of exposure he has, he even went to the point of putting metal films over his windows and doors so that it would filter out all of this low frequency electromagnetic emission. I don't know what I want to call it. I really want to call it garbage. So he has this device where you can hear it, where he can turn up the volume and you can hear it being emitted. So he opens the window and he holds the device out and you hear this loud pulsation and screeching noise from all of these towers that are surrounding his environment. And then he closes the window and he closes these metal blinds that he have, and there's no sound. But he says when he's exposed to it for too long, he starts bleeding internally. So I'm saying all this to everybody because if you're having any of these symptoms, don't get paranoid. Don't be a hypochondriac. Just check out and see if that may be the cause of it. And then when we understand the relationship between, again, the thyroid and the adrenal glands, the thyroid and the breasts, the thyroid and the spleen, the pancreas and the stomach, the thyroid and the prostate, when we understand the relationship between the thyroid and the ovaries and the breasts and all of that, we understand the relationship between all of these parts of the body, and that these adrenal glands were designed to, not just the adrenal glands, all the glands, the endocrine glandular system was designed to produce adaptogens. These adaptogens are what we call hormones. But because our body is being bombarded with all this electromagnetic factor, what's happening is that our lymphatic and our endocrine glandular system is being challenged. There is a cryptochrome that's behind our eyes. And this cryptochrome behind our eyes is our ability to be able to not only see, but to be able to navigate even our brain, our mind, through our environment, through our life. And you know, when we start interfering with that because of this electromagnetic factor, it interferes with the magnetic frequency on the earth. And so it is affecting the birds. And so the birds through this magnetic, this electronic pulsation of the earth are able to navigate themselves around the planet, to fly north in the winter and fly north in the summer, fly south in the winter. You know, that all of nature is attuned to this, that the bumblebee, according to its anatomy, should not be able to fly, but it's able to fly because of this electronic or this electric energy that it is. That's what we are. We're electric beings, by the way. But when we invade their environment with this man-made frequency, what happens is that they die off and they disappear. But when we remove this man-made frequency, and all they did was just very simply took, you know how you can have a portable phone in the house? You have one phone that's plugged in and you have all these portable phones, but you know how they communicate through these signals, right? So they took one of these phones and they put it in. They took 8B, I don't know, I'm going to call it a hive because it's a man-made hive. It's not a bee-made, but, you know, these places where, you know, people that are beekeepers that do honey, and they put one of these portable phones they took 8 of them and 4 of them, they put the phones in there. And the ones that they put the phones in, the bees stopped coming back to that particular cone. They just stopped returning. And the ones where there were no phones, they continued to come. And so when we understand that nature is sensitive, and we are natural beings, even if we're living in an unnatural, unnormal way, we are natural organic beings. And being organic beings, we have an organic relationship with this planet Earth. And if we don't have any appreciation for what has been created and put in place, because for some reason we think that we can perfect what was already perfect, we need to stop and rethink this thing. And so when I looked at the healthiest people in the world dealing with cancer in my life, in 1977, the World Health Organization had decreed that Japanese were the healthiest people on the planet. Now, you check today, 2014-15, you're going to see Japanese are still among the healthiest people on the planet. Well, I want to know, what are Japanese doing? How do they live? How do they eat? What is this Eastern medicine, this Chinese medicine, this macrobiotics about? So I've studied Eastern medicine, Chinese medicine, macrobiotics, and went on and became a naturopathic doctor. But by and large, I've adopted more of a macrobiotic or Japanese diet and lifestyle because that macrobiotic diet was developed after the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That when the Japanese looked at their crop, looked at their country, looked at their people dying and developing all these tumors and cancers and just bleeding out of their orifices, they were desperate to find something that would help to restore the land and to help to diminish some of this tragedy that they were experiencing. And there were some things that were adopted as this macrobiotic diet that I want to mention today that you may want to include in your diet and your lifestyle if you're having problems with some of these symptoms that I've been speaking of today. Because I've been speaking of a lot of them. I spoke of problems with your thyroid. Most people I meet have problems with them. Even if they don't know they have a problem, they have problems with their thyroid. They get it checked out, they find out. Problem with your adrenal glands, which is your problem with your blood pressure, Problems with your prostate, problems with your uterus, problems with your breast, your stomach, your spleen, problems with your bowels, problem with tumors, indigestion, problems with anemia. Look at the amount of radiation. Look where your cell phone is right now. Sitting in on a seat, the man opened the window and let you hear the amount of low frequency emission radiation that was being emitted from these towers. And the tower was 200 feet away. And so it's not like your cell phone is sitting on the car seat next to you. You're not being exposed, And I'm not saying get rid of your cell phone, but there are some answers. I talked to Dr. Delbert Blair after I finished watching the video. And I said, Dr. Blair, I know we brought you into Detroit, and you've talked about this with us for decades. But we need to hit this hard and heavy right now because it's becoming an epidemic. I'm talking to people about this. The young man came in and wanted to know if we have something for ED, for his libido. And he just wanted something to get an erection. And I asked him how was his thyroid. He said, now that you mentioned it, Dr. Keefer, the doctor did tell me that my thyroid is a little misfunctioning. What does it have to do with my libido? And I said, wait, take a few minutes now so we can just talk so you can get a little insight and a little education on that. Because for me to just say, take this and get an erection and overlook potential cause is to do you a disservice. So let me just break it down this way for you. But you'll find that when you start to add the chlorella, CHLORCH, let me spell it for you, chlorella, CHLORELLA. Okay, I'm on air. I'll be with you in just a moment. Chlorella, it's a seaweed. Now, I love the chlorella. I love the chlorella for what it does for the thyroid and the adrenal glands. This particular seaweed is one of the most powerful supplements that you can add to your diet. I have several people that listen to me, even some that come to the water station on a regular basis that say, well, I don't believe in all those food supplements that you talk about. I just eat organic, natural food, and that's all I need. I'm like, we're living in some serious, unnatural times. And you got to understand when I'm telling you this, that I'm speaking from experience. And maybe you're thinking, well, that's just your body, and your body may be broke down, Dr. Keefer. You need all of that, but I don't need that. You don't be in no illusion into thinking that you can take something that's growing out of the ground and defend all this other stuff that's coming. This stuff is coming like thousands of miles per hour, and you moving about 100 miles an hour. You ain't going to catch up. At some point, you're going to end up in trouble. So maybe you're not feeling it right now. So if you're not feeling it right now, no problem. But You see that skin eczema that you're having? People think that they're having problems with all this, and eczema can mutate into cancer of the skin cancer. So you see that skin eczema that you're having all their problems with while you're eating all those organic fruits and vegetables and poo-poo and all the stuff I'm talking about. You may think it's caused by the radiation or the radio waves that are being emitted from the sun. Well, it probably is, but it's because it's bombarding with all this man-made radiation that we have created. And that cell phone that's always in your hip pocket, that's not. If we see at a DNA and cellular level what this stuff is doing to the body, and if it's doing that to the tissues and organs inside of the body, you can only imagine what's happening to the skin. It's like we need to just really pay attention to this. Because years ago I asked you all to throw away the microwave oven, but I told you about all this radioactive stuff as well. So Corella, we can usually find Corella 1,000 milligrams per serving. I always say, if you're going to safeguard the body, now trust me, even if you're juicing wheatgrass, you're not going to get 1,000 milligrams of chlorophyll. Sorry, that ain't hot work. It ain't that much chlorophyll in wheatgrass. So if you go to the sea vegetables, you're going to get a little bit closer. So I'm giving them to you in the strength and the content. Corella, spirulina, spirulina. I'll spell it again. First one is Corella. You can get 1,000 milligrams per serving out of that one. The next one is spirulina, S-P as in Paul, I-R-U-L-I-N as in Nancy, A, spirulina. You can get about 500 milligrams out of that one. Strongest source that I have so far, blue-green algae. Blue-green algae is like when God separated the water from the firmament. The first thing he put in the water was the blue-green algae. And it built up the ozone layer of the atmosphere so we could breathe and be here, right? It's seaweed or sea vegetable. It's a good source of omega-3 oil. Blue-green algae helps your adrenal glands make your stem cells. Now watch this. If your thyroid malfunction, your adrenal gland ain't making no stem cells. So while you're doing all the stem cell research, trying to find somebody else's stem cells to inject into your being so that your body will start to repair itself, your body will make stem cells, but it's got to have some raw materials. So I love the blue-green algae for that regard, but you got to understand that the Corella spirulina is also helping with stem cell because they help to balance the thyroid and help support the adrenal glands and doing their function. So blue-green algae, and that one's probably going to be somewhere around 300 milligrams per serving. So you're still not up to 1,000, but if you do the Corella, you'll get it. But I like to blend the best of land and sea. So, what I've given you are the sea greens, and then there's all kind of things like wakame and hijiki and nori and kelp and kombu, and there's all those seaweeds that we just add to our food or salads or whatever, or soups and consume them that way. But when you're talking about therapeutic dose, when you're talking about a dose strong enough to move this radiation and this heavy metal out of the body, you're going to need to get up to 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day. To first of all understand that all this radiation is creating an acidic bloodstream so cancer cells can thrive. So every time you put that cell phone in your pocket, on your hip, up in your breast pocket or whatever, you just feed in the cancer cells. Just telling the body, just turn acidic and feed the cancer. I'm giving to you straight today, Detroit, because you all you've been listening, but you haven't been hearing. And so I need you to hear me today. Like we've been telling the class, when you open your eyes in the morning, wake up. A lot of times persons will open up their eyes, but they don't wake up. They're just sleepwalking. They're not paying attention to anything. No dots are close enough to connect, and even if they're touching, they're not making the connection. So today I need you to make the connection. You need to throw away the microwave oven. That is serious. I ain't even going to try to ask you to just diminish your use of it. Just throw it away. Just get it out of the house. Turn the TV off when you go to sleep. Matter of fact, get you a circuit breaker and turn all the electricity off in the house when you go to sleep. Now, I know it's going to be hard because you want the furnace on, but whatever you're doing, if you're having any of the stuff that I'm naming, those space heaters, you all need to get a Geiger counter and see how much stuff is in your environment. And then you got nylon carpet and nylon clothes and a nylon wig or nylon weave. You got nylon underwear. You got nylon socks. You got nylon pantyhose. You got the whole body covered with plastic. And so we're not even neutralizing the effect of all this negative energy that we're accumulating. If we do not discharge this electricity, and it's accumulative. All this radiation that we're being exposed is accumulative. And if we do not neutralize it, it's going to short circuit something. It's going to short circuit your nervous system, short circuit your brain, and short circuit the heart. It's going to stop this stuff from running properly. And you guys are doing all these treatments for the symptom, but you're not paying attention to the cause. Pay attention. I'm going to tell you what to do with the microwave. I'm not the microwave, the cell phone and the mobile phone. I already told you what to do with the microwave. Just throw that one away. And don't give it away. Don't give it to anybody. And if you set it out on the curb, make sure you put a warning sign. Warning, could be hazardous to your health, because it's serious. It's that serious. Now, the other thing that's on the macrobiotic diet that I see every meal when I go to Japan is miso, M-I-S-O. Now, it's a fermented soy paste. Let me tell you how powerful miso is. Miso helps pull radiation out of the body. So me, I was sitting there looking at the label, oh, it's got a high sodium content. Well, it's just natural sodium that the kidneys need. It ain't that kind of sodium chloride that's in your table salt. Get rid of the table salt. If you all understood what that sodium chloride table salt, and salt ain't supposed to pour like that. Salt will cake up if it gets moist. You can put some rice in there, so it can absorb some of the moisture, or one of those packs in there that will absorb the moisture, But salt and sugar ain't supposed to pour like that. It cakes up if it gets moist. Yeah. And so get you some miso. And then I'm going to give you a couple more things that I'm going to let you just figure the rest of it out. But get you some plenty of chlorophyll. CHLOROPHYLL. Every time I meet some of these high-tech students, and some of them are young, but they already have lost all their head hair. And when you lose your head hair? When you have over-radiated your thyroid. When your adrenals are in overload. Part of the reason why the adrenal is overload is because it's doing all it can to handle all the stuff that we exposing it to. Yep. I mean, young men and heavy into computers and technology have lost their hair and don't even recognize the relationship. Now, I'm not promising all your hair gonna grow back what you can, but I'm gonna give you one of my number one secrets, and it's not a secret because I talk about it all the time. When we say that it would regenerate the body 6,000% faster in 28 days, not 6, not 60, not 600, 6,000% faster. This liquid biocell life from Jasuru. That's a good secret, because we can scientifically and clinically say, because we have proved that it will regenerate your hair, your skin, your nails, your eyes. We had a Dr. Clark who's an oncologist on one of our Jasuru conference calls. And he talked about the research that he's done on this liquid biocell. And he said his research shows that it will repair the matrix of the DNA. This liquid biocell will repair the matrix of the DNA. You have to understand that when I'm talking about this radiation, it's damaging the matrix and the DNA. Right. So now we can rebuild and repair it. I was driving in and I was thinking, I was listening to the senior show and all the meals that are being served every day to seniors. And I just said, God bless you, those angels that are willing to take care of other people. And I'm doing my part as well. But when I listen to how many seniors are being taken care of, and I realize that, there is a powerful opportunity for all of us to make a shift. Every time I go talk to a senior complex, I tell them the benefits of food as part of their medicinal treatment. That when you look at food, it's shaped like a part of the body. The part of the body that it looks like is a part of the body it's good for. Strawberries are shaped like the heart. Strawberries are good for the heart. So I kind of give them that kind of insight so they can start shopping for foods that look like them, look like parts of the body. But I realized that a lot of people, when she was talking about they just wanted 50 cents a day, a lot of people couldn't even afford the 50 cents per meal because they just didn't have it. And I said, well, a lot of times some of the stuff you're talking about, Dr. Kiefer, people may not be able to afford. But I said, but if it's something I'm using, now you all have to understand something. We've introduced a lot of this stuff to people that are in the healthcare industry, whether they're nurses, technicians, or doctors. And a lot of them are doing some of the stuff we're recommending, but they don't talk to you about it. I'm going to talk